Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Generation Logistics. I'm your host, Ed, and today we're going to be discussing the role of maths in logistics. I'm joined by the wonderful Glen, Ashley and Josh. Thank you all ever so much for joining us. It's great to have you here. I'm going to start just by asking you to give us a quick intro into yourselves and what you're currently doing. Glen, if I could start with you.
Good morning, Ed. My name's Glen. I'm at DHL as part of the Future Leaders Graduate Programme, and I'm currently studying for Apprenticeship Level 5.
Awesome, thank you. And what about yourself, Ashley?
Hi, so my name's Ashley Burton. I'm a Regional General Manager within GXO Logistics. Very nice to be here today.
Brilliant.
So I'm Josh. I work for CB Logistics at the UK head office. I'm a data analyst looking at all kinds of cost-saving initiatives and things like that.
Fantastic, brilliant. Well, thank you ever so much for all joining us. Well, let's start with, for those who are interested in a math-centric role within logistics, why is this so vital and what impact does it have on logistics at the moment?
So I suppose for me, when you're talking about maths, it's quite in its broad sense. There's a huge amount of opportunity within logistics. So you might be traditional, where I started off in a finance career. So that's quite a traditional numbers orientated or math-centric role. But actually within logistics, it's a lot wider than that. So you think from demand planning to inventory to big data like Josh. Actually, maths in itself is paramount within logistics and numbers generally.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So, Josh, with the natural points, can you explain the same thing, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I didn't start in data. I started as a transport planner, but even in that kind of role, there's maths involved because you're sort of dealing with variables like distance, time, space on vehicles, and that kind of thing. So that's where I kind of started, and all that kind of experience has kind of led to me to be better at my job now as a data analyst, which is maths based in a different way, working with equations in spreadsheets and things like that. So logistics is really just kind of one big maths equation, I think.
Brilliant, I love that. And Glen, you're in the earlier stages of your career here. You're on the graduate scheme apprenticeship, is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So I'm on the Future Leaders Graduate Programme. Alongside that, we sort of study operational management with a Level 5 diploma. And operationally, we use maths every day. Even though I'm more operational based, we often sort of look at our stock levels and other solutions design methods which we use maths for. So it's important to sort of have a strong foundation of maths and further our knowledge in it.
Yeah, I love that. So it really is underpinning everything you've got here. And sort of thinking about that, and maths has been part of all of your careers, Ashley, especially coming from that background. Can you give me some examples of when mathematics has led to innovation within the logistics industry? Josh, can I start with you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, logistics is quite an exciting industry to be in at the moment. It's becoming more and more complex in terms of the supply chains that we're dealing with, and logistics companies are sort of always evolving and changing to deal with that. One of the big sort of things at the moment in the industry is sustainable logistics. And one of the things that I do is use data to work out for some of our customers, for example, how many electric vehicles, for example, will it take to deliver some of their deliveries? What benefit will that have? So we can give them data around current CO2 emissions versus the improvement that would bring with electric vehicles or other types of alternative fuels and things like that. So innovation in green logistics is quite a big area at the moment.
That's amazing. So not only is maths part of the key centric part of actually making the job work, but you're also using it to help with that ever-important sustainability element that so many of us are involved with. That's incredible. And Ashley, you must have had some experience with how this is innovative technologies.
Yeah, sure. So my history is that I started in finance in terms of what I did from a previous life within logistics, but massively the numbers have become more important in terms of what we report, how we report it, and actually into big data now. So we've seen like the digitalization of supply chain change massively. With that digitalization has become more tools and techniques such as AI, for example, which is actually driving predictive analytics and data. That's massive in our industry now. So now we're in a fast-paced logistics industry where data is key in order just to be able to service customers and end users. So That data has been used for optimization tools, so whether it be in transport planning, whether it be in automation within warehouses, that AI piece has actually become really, really important now. So there's a big sort of push within that area in terms of what I've seen.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, it sounds to me like it's all speeding things up. You've got a lot of tools at your hands, which is great. And it's really interesting to hear how AI, and correct me if I'm wrong, isn't to be feared. It's a tool that we can utilize. There's a lot of media-centric at the moment about how AI might replace jobs. But it sounds to me like this is more of a tool to be utilized and for you to use within the current roles. Is that how you'd all see it?
Yeah, I think that for someone like myself who doesn't have a great amount of knowledge, data can be simplified and it's more accessible with the help of AI. So I myself can look through data and sort of identify trends and help the business prepare for either downfalls or uprises of demand, and make ourselves more prepared for it.
I love that. No, that's brilliant. So for anybody watching at home, obviously AI is one of those tools that we can utilize, particularly within the logistics industry. Thank you.
Yeah, I would build on that actually in terms of AI. I'm 100% with you in terms of the positive impact it's giving to people to make their life a bit easier, if I'm honest, which is great. But there's also a safety aspect around there as well. So within data, number, AI and analytics, actually understanding what the pinch points are of operations, understanding how we can be safer is really, really important. So that means not only have we now got a tool or something that we can work alongside people, but it also keeps people safe, and it's actually creating new jobs within the industry as well, particularly for younger people that want to join the industry, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I think for a long time, logistics has kind of lagged behind other sectors in terms of its use of data and its sort of recognition of its value. But I think nowadays it's a real massive growth area, and there are going to be a lot of jobs, currently and in the future in terms of data and AI and those kinds of things.
Fantastic. I love how that's opening up opportunities, but also giving safety to the people within logistics, which is obviously key. So starting with Matt's roles, what kind of long-term career progression is possible if you start with a maths background? Ashley, I'm going to start with you because that's where you've come from, and you've headed into a managerial role itself. So can I pick your brains on that one to start with?
Yeah, so I suppose logistics in its sense is kind of a business within a business. That's the first thing I would say for sure. So the opportunities are pretty endless. For the people that want to progress, you absolutely can. You stick your hand up, and because it's fast paced, kind of what we talked about already, that creates opportunities. So for me, naturally, I was a bit of a problem solver, as it were. So maths and finance was kind of where I started in my career. But being really passionate about the industry and trying to lean into problems drove me into a managerial position within operations later in my career within GXO, which I'm really loving. But I still use my maths and my finance brain quite a lot every day in my job.
Brilliant. And Glenn, you're obviously being exposed to quite a lot within your program and your apprenticeship at the moment. Are you finding the use of these tools, or are you finding the career progression is obvious with that maths exposure?
I think having maths as your foundation is very important. A lot of aspects within operations, as we were saying, is very maths based, and if you don't see immediately, it comes apparent when working in the sector. And there's plenty of roles such as sort of inventory management, data mining, roles along those lines, which really are centered around maths. And if you are someone who enjoys maths, you'll definitely find a sort of problem solving aspect to it, and you'll enjoy it. And I'm finding myself sort of day in and day out sort of around maths and looking at how I can identify graphs and how we can get better as a business using it.
I love this. And what's coming apparent to me, and I would say to my viewers at home that I was never maths-centric growing up, but this seems to be more problem-solving and that exciting side of things. Yeah. And data mining, obviously, as you mentioned, sort of looking at that data in detail, which is fabulous. As you've got a combination of both mathematical ability and you obviously also need your industry knowledge, both are both vital in terms of playing roles within the industry. What sort of training is available for people as they start in their career and progress to understand both aspects? Can I start with Josh?
Yeah, sure. I think it's it's really important that you note that a mathematical foundation is as important potentially as the sort of business acumen, because using them alongside each other is kind of what gives you the kind of quality result at the end of it. I think at Siva, we have sort of links with lots of colleges and universities and apprenticeships, and the apprenticeships that I've done, sort of the projects within them are all sort of work-based, in-work projects that sort of enable you to sort of put in the skills that you've learned in the apprenticeship into your day-to-day job. So it's links to education in that sense that I think is really helpful.
Absolutely. And if any of the viewers at home do want to get involved, they can always check out Not Going to Uni, where we post about apprenticeships into the logistics sector. And Glenn, you're obviously doing your apprenticeship at the moment alongside the role. How is that being managed with your day-to-day job? What does that look like for our viewers at home?
So I'm as part of a sort of cohort of graduates, and we have a very useful and helpful graduate team who help us along our journey, and they make sure that we have the guidance and support that we need throughout our sort of apprenticeship period, which is 2 years. So whenever we need them, we can always email, give them a ring, and they'll offer support. So we complete assignments, and some are maths based and some are managerial based, and we get reviewed by an independent body and the apprenticeship scheme. And if you're successful, you go to the next module, and if you're not, they give you obviously another chance to go through it. I find it very supportive, and I'm very grateful to DHL to sort of provide me with that opportunity.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, it sounds fantastic. You've got the training on the ground as well as external information coming in there as well, which is brilliant. And Ashley, obviously, you're a general manager. How do you find it from your side, and how is that support given to those who might be going through apprenticeships?
Yeah, so I ask it two ways. So I learn every day. I learn every day from people that I meet, which is from a truck driver to a forklift driver. That actually they always seem to know everything, into a finger on the pulse in terms of what's happening. So there's the human side of things in terms of learning. But on top of that, I mean, I personally did apprenticeship not too long ago. I went back to university and did my master's degree. So after being a finance person, so I'm that crazy person that did that. But I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I think it just augments the kind of things that you learn on the job. It's fantastic to actually be given the platform to go and learn other things. Within our business, we have some mandatory training you have to do. It's right as we get corporate, and that's the right thing to do. As well, but we also have a platform called GXO University, which I think is really, really good. So any wide colleague can go on to that program and can do any type of training. Some will be pushed to you, but also you can go and learn yourself as well. So whether that be you want to brush up on your math skills or your finance skills, you can actually go and do that yourself, or your manager can give you some time to do that. So what I'd say is that logistics is for everyone, whether you want to start from the ground in terms of picker packer, or whether you want to start in an office-based job. There's opportunities for everyone to progress, and training is definitely there if you want it.
I think as well as the formal qualifications that definitely help with roles such as mine, gaining the experience of the industry can be quite difficult to get into if you don't have any sort of connections. But definitely, part-time jobs, internships, and that kind of thing. Really gives you that day-to-day experience. And once you're in there, there's sort of mentoring programs where you can pair up with someone in a different area of the business to gain that knowledge of the different areas of the business, to then sort of make you a more well-rounded sort of individual in terms of the business as well.
That's brilliant, and that must be great for our listeners at home to know that they're not just niched into one area. It sounds like, and we've got lots of examples here, that you can learn across field, cross-sector within logistics, and lots of exciting opportunities there as well, which is wonderful. We've discussed qualifications you can get and training you can get on site. Could you give me some examples of what professional qualifications you could get that could help advance in your career? Can I start with you, Josh?
Yeah, sure. So I've done a couple of apprenticeships during my time at Siva. So I did a level 3 leadership qualification, all provided by kind of an external body. And then I did a level 4 data analysis apprenticeship as well, again provided by a completely external body to Siva. But I mean, it's available to you at any point during your career, not just for someone like me, sort of relatively new to logistics in terms of 10 years or whatever it is, but all the way up to kind of, we've got MDs in our business that are doing qualifications at universities around sort of MBAs or supply chain qualifications, that kind of thing. So at any point during your career, if you're at an organisation that has links to those educational bodies, you can definitely sign up for qualifications in a formal way.
Wonderful. Glen, can I ask, how did you get into the qualification you're going into? Yours is a grad scheme at the moment. What was the application into that like?
So I was at university and I was looking for roles within logistics, and I saw the graduate program within DHL. They were very helpful throughout the whole process. I did a couple of assessment centres and the interview process, and thankfully I got the job. Qualifications wise, there's plenty. I mean, outside sort of the company, there's sort of Lean Six Sigma qualifications which you can undertake to sort of improve your project management ability and stuff like that. And within DHL, we have My Talent World, which is sort of inbuilt talent sort of harnessing program, which there's lots of different courses you can take within sort of data and maths or more managerial aspects to it. And obviously the apprenticeship I'm in now, DHL put me in. Once I finish my graduate program, after the 2 years, I'll be finishing my apprenticeship and I'll come out with 2 years of experience, but also 2 years of apprenticeship knowledge, which is very useful.
That's fantastic. And Ashley, you obviously mentioned that you went back into education once you started your role, which is really interesting. And what sort of different doors and opportunities did that open up for you within your career?
I went back to university and did a master's degree at Cranfield through GXO and the apprenticeship levy. It was fantastic. It's a nice sort of segue into that. And I've got colleagues and friends that have actually done their professional qualifications, so their ACCA, their CIMA, their CIPD, all through the apprenticeship levy through GXO as well, and that training is readily available. And they do a nice touch, actually, just a bit off-piece really, is that when you're doing those formal qualifications, we move people around to give you a bit of breadth of knowledge as well, so you get to work whilst getting your formal qualification as well. So that kind of leads into what I did, my career path, as I went back to school, back to university, and I loved it. It was really, really good for me. It opened doors from a networking point of view as well. I saw a lot of different people from different industries, but actually probably have elements of supply chain within them. So actually got involved in that a little bit in that networking piece. But then thereafter, one was particularly around leadership, for example. So it's really opened doors for me to think about how I can mentor grads in the future. This was something that I'm currently doing. I really enjoy. How I can understand my personality traits, how I can lean into what I'm good at, what I'm not good at. So it's been really, really good for me to kind of build on the stuff that I thought I knew, but to just get a bit better, if I'm honest.
So, as we can see from the panel we have here, you've all approached your career very differently and you're at different stages. So am I right in thinking that I don't need to go straight into uni, onto my master's, and then to reach a certain level? There are different ways of approaching this.
Yeah, without shadow of a doubt. I think, use me as an example, I didn't go directly into university. That just wasn't for me. That wasn't my journey at the time. My business really supported me, actually, in terms of, saw me as a potential that could be talent and progressive in the business, and actually give me a portfolio of things that I could go and do. So it's fantastic they give me that support to go when I was ready, so a bit older, to go back to university and do that. So that, it's massively important that you can do that. Plus, for me, I think that I'm a bit maturer, I'll say, to go back to university and learn these things. It really helped me to be more pragmatic about my learning. And I think I enjoyed it going back as an older student. I would have been maybe if I'd have started my logistics career straight into uni and then think masters and etc. At that time, that just wasn't for me at that time.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I went to uni after school, but I did geography, which isn't really related to logistics and the kind of geography that I did. So, I didn't really have that kind of master plan when I was a bit younger about what I wanted to do. I didn't have my career kind of mapped out in front of me, and I think it's okay for that to happen, because if you, and like I did, luckily I found my way into logistics, and like I've said, you can do those qualifications at any point during your career. You don't have to have it at the front end, or even if you do have a degree, it doesn't have to be a logistics-based degree, because I think, speaking from my personal experience, going to university taught me a lot more than just the academic side. There was a lot of personal development involved, and finding out who you are and all that kind of thing. All of those skills are sort of really valuable through life, and even more so in logistics, because I think logistics in some ways is all about kind of people and relationships as well. And when you get that kind of life experience, wherever you get that from through university or whatever, I think that kind of stands you in good stead for a successful career in logistics as well.
With you, yeah. How as me as an 18-year-old, knowing what I wanted to do with my career then, I don't think I would have known, if I'm honest. Some of us stumble into logistics. That's just a fact. That's just the way it's happened. But it's great that we're getting more kudos and the industry is getting more wider known. But at 18 years old, you might not know what you want to be or what you want to do. So what's fantastic is you can go into an industry where, you know, the opportunities are there to get, but you can also go back and do your education thereafter once you've kind of honed in and, you know, in terms of what you want to do. And that's kind of what I did. So yes, it's a good opportunity for sure. Yeah,
that's brilliant. It seems that there's so much opportunity across logistics, and definitely it sounds like advice to anybody watching this is you don't need to have your 10-year plan here. You can learn as we go, and there's lots of opportunities to do this, as we can see on the panel, which is fantastic. So looking at some data now, we've been looking a lot at maths and how that's centric in the logistics career. Can you highlight the importance of analysing data, both to manage but also to evolve the operations within the logistics sector? Ashley, can I start with you and your experience?
You can, and actually we were kind of talking about this before this started. I think that logistics is probably one big algebra equation, if you really think about it, finding the problem or the solution in terms of what's the missing piece. So the analysis of data is every day in terms of what we do. So just thinking about my job, I need to understand what volume's going out, what volume's coming in, and what can I do in the middle. And that's kind of the importance of analysing data, but analysing data accurately, but also predicting that data in terms of, you know, the so what in terms of numbers as well.
Right, and so that's so what, just to dive into that a little bit more, that you're sort of trying to project the trends, as it were, as well?
Yeah, whether that be from a capacity point of view, so what can we meet in terms of customer demand? What do we need to do in terms of reallocating resources? That's just from an operational point of view, but then there's a commercial aspect as well. And how much does that cost, and how can we do that in the most cost-effective way?
Brilliant. So really analysing that data is key to then sort of drive those decisions that you're making.
Sure.
And Josh, how about yourself in analysing data? How's that helped evolved the logistics sector in the time that you've been there?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of my job in a nutshell to use data to do analysis projects that inform the leaders of our business and enable them to make evidence-based sort of data-led decisions. In the time that I've been in the industry, which, like I've said, has only been sort of 10 years, which is a relatively short amount of time compared to some people in the industry, but it's evolved massively. I remember sort of when I first started in the transport office, sending faxes to subcontractors.
And for viewers at home, you can look up what a fax machine is online.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, obviously, there's email and things like that. Which, I mean, the logistics industry has kind of moved on considerably in the last 10 years. It's been a real change area.
Fantastic. And Glenn, with you're getting to experience a lot of diversity within your role at the moment. How are you seeing the use of data and how that's affecting the logistics industry? Is there anything that's surprised you in what you're seeing?
Yeah, so before entering the industry, I thought it was very black and white, sort of stock in the warehouse, send it out, happy customer. In fact, there's a lot of data analysis and work that goes behind it. So having some stock in transit, some at the supplier, some in the warehouse, so it's just in time, and making sure there's always stock to make the customer happy, but it's not just as black and white as having it in the warehouse and sending it out. So in the couple months of being at DHR, I've learned a substantial amount about sort of supply chains, and it's been very eye-opening.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so that's really interesting as well to know that it's not just moving stock from A to B. There is a lot of in-betweens to think about, and this data and mathematical understanding is obviously giving you that foundation for that. It's brilliant. Thank you. So can you give us some examples of data-driven decisions that have been made within supply chains? I know we've spoken about a couple, but do you have any examples in your own experience?
Yeah, so I think we're kind of a day-to-day or sort of typical project that I get involved in is something like, for example, we'll have a prospective new customer, and we need to know as a business, will their deliveries fit on our existing vehicle fleet wherever they are in the UK and on their existing trips and the vehicle space that we've got, or do we need to have some new vehicles brought into the business, and how many and what cost that is, and what cost that implies. So we typically kind of get a huge data set from a customer for a year's worth of their deliveries or something like that. And one of the things that I do is kind of look at our existing volume and where the vehicles are in the country, what trips they're doing, the delivery times they're having to meet at the moment, and there's sort of the synergies between our existing volume and a customer's new potential volume. And all of that kind of leads to what potential cost there will be for this new customer, because ultimately, like any business, logistics is kind of driven a lot by cost. So
yes.
Putting a cost to the new service that will provide that customer and trying to make that as competitive as possible while also providing the best service we possibly can for our customer is kind of my job in a nutshell as well, really.
That makes perfect sense. You really are balancing up the money aspect of things alongside the logistics and the making sure everything arrives on time. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yes.
So there's a big one there, I suppose, as well, to kind of build on that then says, as I think we've talked a little about on this, how the logistics industry is changing and quickly, that's actually now driving automation projects as well now. So whether we're looking at new technology that we can bring in to support people to increase capacities. So to your point, now we have solutions engineers, definitely maths-based and super bright people that can take the data that customers have provided them and their projections, what their business wants to go, and say, well, based on X data, at what point is it now right to start thinking about how we actually transform your supply chain and look at something more manual to something more automated. We're seeing that quite a lot in the industry. There's probably more modular tech than big, automated all singing warehouses now, but that kind of piece of data and that ability to be able to provide capacity to customers quickly, it is now becoming paramount to use that data to drive new projects.
That's absolutely amazing. And just before we go on, I'm going to ask you about modular tech in a second. If anybody is particularly interested in tech, there is an episode that can be found on Generation Logistics where we are talking about tech specifically, so make sure to check that one out. You just mentioned modular tech.
Yep.
Could you just explain what you mean by that, just for our viewers at home?
Yes, I'll try and explain it in my way. Hopefully that makes it simple. So from a modular tech point of view, it's adding technology into an existing operation already that exists. So that could be small or it could be quite big, but give you examples now where you've got companies, not plug them too much, but like Pro Glove, which is a new way of picking. It might be a modular piece of software tech that we add, but then you might have different conveyors that you put into the warehouse to make unloading easier. So these are things to try and support that throughput within an operation or a warehouse rather than a brand new automated warehouse or shed. So it's we're in that sort of transitional phase now where we've got logistics has been around for a long time, but we need to introduce capacities, particularly with e-com and etc. Driving volume massively within warehouses.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you ever so much. So I was one of those people at school who didn't understand why we were learning all these different mathematical theories. What real-life scenarios are used with these different principles we learn in school?
Yeah, I was one of those people as well. I remember being sat in a maths class, trying to learn algebra and areas of a shape and things like that, and thinking, I don't think I'll ever use this in school, outside of school. But I mean, daily I do calculations, averages, percentage change and things like that, most of which are in things like spreadsheets and other cool kind of tools like that where you're writing the formulas. But you need to, as well as having those tools, you need to know some kind of mathematical knowledge to be able to write into those spreadsheets and how to create that. And from fairly basic mathematical equations like averages and things up to like data visualization, so something like graphs and things like that. That's kind of a key part of what I do daily, and being able to transform data into a bit of a story and have a bit of a narrative behind the data. Visualizations is a big part of that when you're presenting to sort of director level people who potentially don't want to know the detail. They just kind of want to know a summary of what a data set is telling them. Visualizations like data and graphs, things like that, which you learn in school, are really key every day.
Fantastic. Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it is so broad, isn't it, in terms of the things that you do around numbers or maths every day, from simple things or maybe not simple things, in terms of, I know that my sales are this much and my costs are this much, and a bit at the end is my profit. That happens every day, because in the end we're in a business, right? So we're certainly here to try and see if we can make money if we can. But yeah, to your point, every day I'll be speaking to our teams and our resource planners, etc., saying, have I got enough people for the day to meet today's volume? And that's a simple equation of productivity divided by volume equals hours, right? So equals people. So and you kind of it flows, if you know what I mean, from a numbers perspective. And every day we're using those general mathematics type principles to kind of calculate things. And some of these aren't that complicated. It's about applying the logic to the mathematical principle. So we'd probably do that like hourly, I would say, rather than necessarily daily. Yeah. It's really important within GXO and logistics.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was looking back, I was just thinking when I was back into school and thinking about, when am I going to use this later on in life? And and I know a lot of people go through the sort of same thought process, but now, so at A-levels, I study psychology, maths, and economics, and I use all three of those on a daily basis in my day-to-day operation, and it's sort of understanding the supply and demand while using maths to find out how much pallets I can fit in a level of racking, and if that weight can support the racking. And there's a lot of different sort of elements to it, and in the psychology of working with people and understanding them and how to help them in furthering themselves and progressing. And I think that is really important to sort of take in everything you learn in school and be ready to use it later on in life.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think sometimes you don't know you're doing it. I think sometimes you don't know you're doing it, and you're applying the maths that you learn when you were at school a long time ago for me, in terms of the stuff that you do every day. And I suppose I would add that maybe if one area of maths wasn't your strong point, you'd be surprised when you kind of link that into a real business world, how you'll kind of pick it up, because you've got a real life scenario. So read it in a book, you get told from your teachers, etc., how things work. But then when you do it in business, a real life scenario, you kind of find your way in terms of maths.
Yeah,
so,
it's about context, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. And you mentioned about bringing things to life with graphs and so on, so that people really understand the data. And then, of course, there's the physical other end of it, where, as you say, how many pallets can we fit onto this shelf? Or you mentioned earlier about warehouse floor space, and we've all done it in school, where we've had to work out the surface area of something, and this is where it comes into real life application. So fascinating. And obviously, if it's something that maybe you're not so used to at school, seeing it in the real world can make a big difference, can't it? So logistics is an ever-changing industry. How do you make sure that you stay up to date with the most latest innovations and industry practices? Glenn, can I start with you on what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're lucky nowadays to have such a sort of broad, I'd say, accessibility to knowledge. So through the social medias, through sort of, I would use LinkedIn, for example. You can be part of logistics and supply chain groups which post daily about sort of new updates in industry and other. And also, if you think about it, when you read the news, there's a lot of relevant information there in regards to our industry, and it's just about how you approach it and sort of finding the right sources of information.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's lots of resources out there and lots of places people can connect in. That's wonderful. Ashley, can I ask you the same question?
Yeah, I'm with you. So I think you can certainly find the information in a ready format now, because logistics is a growing industry. If you look at stats in terms of industries that are growing versus industries that aren't, so you definitely see there's more in that space where people can give you opportunities to read, see what's out there. But I think that the business as well, in terms of what we have now, we have people that physically go out now and find new things, because we're looking to try and find that next cutting edge. So we have a dedicated team of people across our global business that actually give us portfolio. These are things that are happening, and actually the logistics industry is quite a small world. It's a massive industry, but a small world. So actually, networking events like this, you actually talk to people about problems that they've had and how they solved them, and how they solved with maybe a modular solution to then what is happening in terms of what's coming out next. So I think that, to your point about ever-changing, being super fast, I think that's kind of the fun, if you know what I mean. So, every solution will evolve, and it just means that because you've got that passion, you go and find it, or it comes to you really quickly.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, and I think that there are a lot of publications out there as well that you can sort of subscribe to and read kind of on LinkedIn digitally, or kind of get it posted to your house if you like, that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, knowledge sharing definitely within SEVA is kind of a massive thing, and sort of networking events. Like you say, logistics is a relatively small industry. Kind of when you've been in it for long enough, you sort of get to know the different people, and maintaining those contacts and discussing problem solving and what obstacles they've had, and this startup went really badly, or this startup went really well because of X, Y, and Z, and that kind of thing. Yeah, knowledge sharing is kind of a big part of it, I think.
It's great to hear about the knowledge sharing across the entire industry. I suppose it helps everybody, doesn't it? And with that in mind, we'll have some young people watching who love maths but aren't really sure about what path to take to get into logistics and what's best for them. What would be the best way for them to explore their options? Open question to you all.
Yeah, I think once you're in logistics, you kind of realise that it's everywhere. And if you kind of enter logistics at any point in the industry, you can then, because there's so much knowledge sharing and sharing of experience and a lot of transferability between departments, it's relatively easy to kind of feel your way around the industry and work out what you like, what you don't like, what's suited to your talents and abilities, and what's not. So I'd say kind of get your foot in the door, and then it's really easy to kind of decide. So I don't know if you'd agree.
I love that.
Yeah, I think logistics is going nowhere. I think in terms of it's the silent strength behind any business is what I'd describe it as. So if you're a young person looking to get into any industry and you're quite maths based, then logistics is a good one. I would say that there's many opportunities which we kind of discussed today. So you might naturally think maths, finance, or data, but actually it's probably a bit broader than that. So I think to your point, graduate programs, non-graduate programs. You can join. I've known people. In fact, there are MDs within our business that have joined from the shop floor, right, that have worked, loading lorries, and now the MD of our business. So that's pretty diverse in terms of your entry into the market. So another thing I'd probably say is that either you'd agree that once you're in logistics, actually it's kind of a bit of a family type feel, and it's quite you're in it, and most people stay. So that kind of speaks wonders. Once you're there, a lot of people within this industry stay, and the skills are transferable outside as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, it definitely seems like that. And Glenn, your experience, what would you suggest people who are math-centric and want to get into logistics sector?
Yeah, I mean, looking back, I wish I got into it earlier. And I'll just sort of recommend to be sort of curious and courageous, and really put yourself out there. There's plenty of experience days, internships, summer internships that you can get involved with, and obviously the companies such as ours are huge, and there's anywhere around the UK and the world we have warehouses and opportunities. So I think that if you're math-centric and interested in a role like this, you should definitely have a look online. There's plenty of sort of opportunities and get involved.
I love that. Wonderful. And if people do want to find out more, they can look at Not Going to Uni online, and that's got a lot of information on there, as well as generationlogistics.org. So say I'm watching this and I want to get into logistics. I'm still quite young. What sort of qualifications or skills or hobbies would you suggest I go out and do to give me the cutting edge to get into the sector?
I think, to be fair, as well as we've talked about sort of several qualifications that you can get, apprenticeships that you can go on, but because logistics is about people and about relationships, one of the key things that you need to sort of develop in yourself is the soft skills, kind of active listening, developing empathy and that kind of thing, because the more relationships you build, the bigger your network, the more opportunities that come your way and that kind of thing. So I think that's a really important aspect to develop as a young person, and you can kind of gain that through lots of different things, work experience, going to university, sports teams is kind of what I did to kind of develop those kind of things. Any kind of group activity where you're meeting lots of different people with lots of different opinions, lots of different types of people from different backgrounds, and engaging with those kinds of people, I think is a really good foundation and teaches you those soft skills that you then build on with your sort of the formal qualifications like a data analysis or anything like that. I think it kind of makes you a more rounded individual and more attractive to employers, kind of thing.
I love that. Fantastic. And yourselves, do you have any other suggestions for people watching?
I think I really like what you said about be curious. I really like that. It's a strong saying within the industry, because no 2 days are the same for sure. So I'd say if you're a young person wanting to get into logistics, great. That's a really good start, if I'm honest, because you've got the will, and I'd say the will becomes for skill for me always in terms of wanting to do something. So there's loads of avenues that you can do. So if you're super young, you can look at opportunities, whether they be part-time roles, etc. But also I'd say there's a lot of events that we do across lots of businesses where we go out to kind of sell ourselves as a great career to join. Go to them, network, speak to people. Often the opportunities will arise just by that general conversation. But the opportunities are endless, so just go for it.
Love that. It's fantastic. And I love that statement, will before skill.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful and really something that we can all take away. And this sort of brings me into our final question here. If you had to give one bit of advice to anybody who's looking for maths as a career or coming into logistics, what would you say to somebody looking for this? Glenn, can I start down with you?
I feel like I'm going to repeat myself here and sort of say be curious and courageous. It's important to sort of not down yourself and think of yourself as I can do it. And I think that maths or not maths based doesn't matter. I think that logistics is a very harbouring environment. They will find a place for you, whether it be HR in your finance and operations. It's a very broad industry. It's sort of in relation to maths based roles. I think there's loads of opportunity. I think, just be courageous.
I love that. Be courageous. Ashley, how about yourself?
I'm 100% with you. I think that the piece of advice I would give to my young self, maybe, or to anyone that I knew that was starting in that world, was take a chance, I think. And the reason I say that is because opportunities happen all the time within logistics. It's that sort of train or that big business that keep on moving. Sometimes you'll get opportunities before you think you're ready, but just go for it, because in the end, putting yourself in an uncomfortable position could really help you in the long run. And I think within logistics, if you want to progress, sometimes you have to be a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I like that.
I think one of the phrases that I got told was kind of get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And while that sounds a little bit negative sometimes, you have to kind of realise that there's always going to be challenges coming your way, and sort of developing the resilience to those almost makes the next one a little bit easier. And I think, searching for something outside of your comfort zone as well, you're only going to grow as an individual. And sort of once you take that opportunity, the next opportunity that probably wasn't available to you before then becomes, doors open when doors open kind of thing. So I'd say just go for it.
Thank you ever so much for all joining us. And thank you for watching. This is Generation Logistics. If you want any further information, make sure to check out generationlogistics.org. See you next time.